Hello, my name's Sally Callow and I'm the Managing Director of Stripy Lightbulb CIC. I have myalgic encephalomyelitis myself and have been an ME advocate for the past 4 years. This business has come out of conversations I've had with ME patients over the last 4 years. There's a desperate need for education because at the moment ME patients are receiving inadequate support. And the support that they are getting is not appropriate to the condition, purely because people don't know what they're dealing with. So, I've done a diagram. This is what in a perfect world would happen. So, healthcare professionals get medical training at medical school. When they go into the profession, they know what they're talking about. They know what tests and things to do, who to refer the patient to. And then that information would be cascaded down to education, so schools, universities and colleges, and business, so HR and occupational health, and business managers who have staff immediately under their duty of care. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Healthcare professionals around the world, on the whole, not 100%, but on the whole, receive zero medical training on C.F.S. which isn't right because it's the most common illness that very little is known about. It's a common illness, it's not rare. And it was actually discussed in Parliament this year in the UK, and they've said that it's unacceptable that medical students receive zero training. So that is something that's going to change, but it may not change until 2020. So that's part of the inspiration behind Stripy Lightbulb, because we can't wait anymore. We need to start getting appropriate support. So this is the current situation. So healthcare professionals receive zero training. When a teacher or a headmistress comes into contact with an ME/CFS patient, they simply do not know how to support that student. And at the moment, students are either being expelled from school, getting a little support at home, and they're leaving school with maybe 1 GCSE. They're not reaching their potential. I have personal experience of this because I actually had ME the first time round when I was at secondary school. Although I was never diagnosed during that time, with hindsight I now know what I've got now is what I had then. So I was never diagnosed. It took 2 years to get better. And I was incredibly lucky that although they didn't know what was wrong with me, my school were very sympathetic and they sent work home. And they asked me if I needed any additional support. And I managed to leave school with 9 GCSEs above grade C, which stood me in good stead when I went on to college and university. But that's a very rare occurrence. Most schools simply don't know. Yes, they have a disability policy, but ME is a very unique illness. If we simply do not have energy, you can't treat it the same way as you would do another disability. So they need that training. And then business. At the moment, most ME sufferers, unless they're lucky enough to find part-time employment where they can work flexi hours, and those jobs are not regular, most ME sufferers have to come out of work and go on to disability benefit. We have a very large economic burden purely because business professionals do not know how to support us adequately and keep us in the workplace. I mean, prime example, I had to leave my job because they would not allow me to work flexibly. Instead, I left, I became self-employed, and I can now work part-time hours and I can do it at my own pace, at my own speed. But not everybody's cut out for self-employment. To have the opportunity to work part-time hours for an employer and have that support there is invaluable. Businesses also need to know about how to support people with things like light sensitivity, noise sensitivity, because it's not just staff, it's their clients as well. And if you can enhance your working environment so that that person doesn't have to disclose their disability, that's a really good selling point for your business. So there's all these reasons for education. All these people need to know about ME. In the UK, there are 250,000 ME patients. That's double the amount of MS patients in the UK. And there's 21,000 children and young adults that are in education that are the majority aren't getting support, and that's something that needs to change, and that's where Stripy comes in. Stripy is going to sit there. Many, and this is not stretching the truth, many in the healthcare profession simply do not believe that ME is a valid illness. That's partly because for decades we've had very inadequate research funding. Because of that, we've only managed to find 2 biomarkers, which means that it's a physical illness. It's not in our heads, it's not an ME illness, not that there's anything wrong with having a mental illness. That's not what this is about, but it's been proven that there are biomarkers in human bodies to show that it's a physical illness, and yet many in the healthcare profession do not believe it. That's going to change slowly over time, but while GPs don't accept that it's a valid illness, again, not across the board, but I would say at least 90%, from my own personal experience, every time I go, my GP does not talk to me as if they think it's a valid illness. Personal experience, and all you've got to do is look at the hashtag #MECFS on Twitter, and you will see thousands of stories just like mine. Anyway, yes, so while GPs don't accept that it's a valid illness, that means that nurses don't get training, healthcare workers, support workers, carers, none of them know what they're dealing with. Those people need training. Once they get their training, that can filter down to these people. But while Stripy's here, we can deliver training to all of those 3. I'll deliver ME/CFS training from a human perspective. I don't do medical jargon. Nothing I say will come from the Lancet. But it will be what the symptoms are, how that makes a patient feel, what these people could do to support the ME patients that are under their duty of care. So while we're waiting for the government to enforce medical training for ME/CFS for medical students, that's where Stripy comes in. Hopefully healthcare people will start getting training in a couple of years' time, but these people will still require training because everybody knows somebody with ME, just as a normal human being. But once you've got students and staff under your care, you will encounter ME patients a lot more frequently. But yeah, so at the moment, these people have to contact charities to find out how to support students and staff under their care. Because if they go to a GP, they will get incorrect or inadequate information. They currently encourage schools to push students to attend class because of a thing called PACE, the PACE trial, where they're encouraging ME patients to do more activity to get better. That's now been declared as flawed research. That's not right, and the information being given out by GPs has actually harmed ME/CFS patients, so that needs to change. There's another reason for the education. You can't blame healthcare people if they haven't had the training. That's why education is vital. But yeah, so hopefully it will take pressure off charities that can get on with advocacy for their patients and not having to educate business and education professionals. But yeah, so Stripy will benefit the ME/CFS community in 3 ways.